And we are live on a Recruiting Thursday. Welcome, guys. Welcome, ladies, gents, to another edition of the Jameson Dable Show. We're coming live to you on a Thursday afternoon. Beautiful, beautiful day. The weather is just tremendous the last couple of days here in the capital city, and looks to be the same on a Thursday. Guys, look, we have got a great show for you today. We're going to address, obviously, the Recruiting Thursday. We're going to address all the recruiting issues, give you my take on how does this Les Miles firing affect LSU recruiting? Does it affect it all that much? What does LSU need to do to make sure they keep this class intact? We're also going to discuss on a national scale, how do game day being on different campuses or high profile games affect recruiting in any way? Just want to kind of address that. Right now, there's really no visits set up as high school players are kind of focusing on their seasons right now. There are a few guys that are taking visits this weekend. You don't see a whole lot of commitments, things of that nature right now. It's kind of like a period where they focus on the season, and then they start to commit more in November, December, leading up to National Signing Day. But there's a lot of questions that I want to address to you on this LSU situation. How will LSU keep the class together? Why do the Tigers have such a advantage when it comes to recruiting in the state of Louisiana? I'm going to give you some numbers on the talent level in this state, and why really the fact of this state being such a recruiting hotbed of talent all through the state. It's like this fertile soil with recruits. That is what is going to lure a great, good head coach to LSU, because they know, regardless of the expectations that they face coming into the situation, the fact they can bring players in will tell them, okay, you know what, look, I know it's a high-profile job, high expectations. However, I can get immediate results because of what's in place and what I know I can get coming in, what I can pitch to these recruits, what I can tell them. One thing that LSU has to their advantage, and what they need to keep to their advantage, is they have such a tremendous recruiting staff. It really is true. It really is tremendous. One thing that I was excited, and a lot of LSU fans are excited about, was getting Austin Thomas. He was at USC for a little bit. He's the recruiting coordinator, assistant sports information director of LSU. And the one thing that is going to keep this class together, he's actually going to be taking a hold of it. And what that is he actually can tell these recruits, he can paint a picture, he can paint a vision about where the staff's going to be, where he envisions the future of LSU football. Why? Because he knows he's going to be here. He knows for a fact he's going to be here. He knows the direction that this program is headed. He knows the great things that are going to come through this program. He can get rid of the uncertainty in these kids and their families' minds. Because, see, the coaches can't do that. Corey Raymond, Damian Craig, Bradley Belpito, Ed Orgeron. They can't, because they don't know. They may lose their job before the year 2017 gets underway. They may lose it immediately when the season ends. They can't convey that. Now, if the next coach, whoever it may be, comes to LSU, if he's got an ounce of intelligence, he will maintain the core of this recruiting staff. These are some excellent coaches, but more importantly, they're excellent recruiters, which is going to keep a lot of these guys, these kids that have already committed, on board. If they don't, they're going to have some decommitments. You can guarantee that if they don't keep some of these recruiters on board. A lot of these kids, they love Les Miles, but they came to LSU because of certain guys. Let's not get that confused. I think a lot of people may look at it as if the head coach leaves, then some kids are going to leave. And yes, that is true, that some kids will leave because they did come to school for Les Miles. You know, he probably was keeping in touch with them. He was probably in with their families, and that goes big into recruits' decision making. However, the fact that you've maintained the majority of the staff, other than Cam Cameron, which obviously is, in my opinion, a huge upgrade with the lack of production. That's a huge upgrade for LSU to send Cam packing. But maintaining the remainder of that staff was a must. No doubt about it. The fact that they didn't clean house, or they didn't just get rid of, say, 4 or 5 coaches when that happened, was just really, really key. The remainder of the staff is going to be influential in getting the recruits to stay committed to LSU and to putting in their minds LSU is stable. They just went into another direction. Unfortunately, 2 recruits that LSU was hot after, and probably, matter of fact, one I know they're going to lose, which is Marvin Jones, the defensive tackle out of Texas, 5-star. He's more than likely going to Oklahoma. He was a big Les Miles guy. He loved Les Miles, and that's what kept with him and Coach O, the relationship they had with this kid, Jones, kind of came to an abrupt end. From what I understand, it looks like more likely that he's going to end up signing with Oklahoma. Texas will surely make a strong push for him because he's a fantastic player. But the other big-time recruit that we've been following for a long time. I've been looking at film over this guy for the last 2 years, and people have been following this guy ever since he was an 8th grader. Obviously, I'm referring to Dylan Moses, the Baton Rouge native, currently at IMG Academy in Bradenton, Florida. You know, he had a very good relationship with Les Miles, really close. They had offered him a scholarship in 8th grade. They kept in touch with him his entire time. Yes, he decommitted from LSU, which I think wasn't a sign of he's not coming to LSU. I think it was a sign of he wanted to kind of open it up a little bit. He's going to take some more official visits this weekend. Dylan Moses will be visiting Alabama for the Alabama-Kentucky game, so you can guarantee Nick Saban and his staff are going to be really pushing hard to get Dylan Moses to flip to them or go to their side, or I guess make Alabama more of a favorite. I think when it's all said and done, LSU is going to have a very big-time battle with Texas. I think Dylan Moses, because Charlie Strong's a great recruiter, he's kept in contact with Dylan Moses. He's a defensive guy. He was linebackers coach in South Carolina. He coached the secondary as well, and he was a defensive coordinator there. He's a hands-on type of coach, which a lot of these kids like. Kind of like a father figure type. And Texas he got a big win against Notre Dame for whatever that's worth now. I don't consider that to be a big deal. But I think the fact that Texas has what they have in place, they can pitch the direction of the football program. They've got the best facilities. They have the ability to take over a conference completely, dominate. So they have abilities to flip recruits, as they did on one of LSU's 4 stars last year, at linebacker. There was LSU committed all the way, then signing day he flipped to Texas. Texas has that ability. It's going to be interesting to see. From my contacts, I understand it looks like Dylan Moses probably is a good chance he could end up at Texas. LSU's going to have a lot to say about that before it's all said and done. I think Dylan Moses is now going to set up an official visit to come to LSU, which he didn't before. The reason being is to meet the new coaching staff, or the new coach that comes in. I think that's one thing you will see in January, is an official visit by Dylan Moses to LSU to meet the current coaching staff that Joe Leva and company are going to bring into place. The reason he didn't have any official visits, in my opinion, was that he didn't need to have any official visits. He's been coming to LSU since he was a kid. He knows the staff. There was nothing that they could do to really impress him, in my opinion. He already knows what's so impressive about this university. It's already in him. Of course, he'd come to have a little fun and those type of things. But as far as the program and familiarity and the atmosphere, he knows. He's a guy that's been here for a while now. Going to Alabama, going to Texas, he's going to Houston in about 3 or 4 weeks. Those schools like that, then yes, he's going to take those official visits. He's going to schedule those early because he wants familiarity with those programs. He wants to get on campus and see. So even though that there was obviously a disconnect with Les Miles getting fired, I don't think it's going to have a tremendous impact on Dylan Moses. I think it does impact him in a certain way, but I think it's going to be up to LSU's current recruiting staff to make it known what's the current direction of LSU football. So stay tuned. I'm going to give you updates as I get them on Dylan Moses. He's kind of the 1A, 1B with Najee Harris out of California that commit to Alabama for the number 1 spot. Now, how LSU, I'm just kind of telling you a little bit about how they're going to keep their class together, and that's the keys. Just finishing that up is keep this staff together. Austin Thomas is going to be very influential in keeping this class together. Some guys that are going to stay solid. I've heard that Patrick Queen may flip to Ole Miss possibly with his buddy Todd Harris that committed to LSU. I think that's going to really solidify Patrick Queen to LSU and not have him flip to another school. Jacoby Stevenson looks like he's pretty solid. Kerry Vincent Jr. said that he's not flipping anywhere. As long as they keep Corey Raymond on staff, I think Kerry's good as gold. One that was definitely affected by Les Miles getting fired was Austin Deckles, the offensive lineman out of Texas. He's going to be taking a visit to Michigan. There wasn't any talk of him decommitting from LSU, but he was one that loved Les. So that's going to take a solid job by LSU's recruiting staff to keep him on board. It's hard when a coach gets fired and they had a great relationship with the head coach, because it's kind of like it leaves a gap for them. It changes the outlook for these kids. So that's one to watch on. LSU's going to have to pounce. Now, Miles Brennan, he's still solid. He's coming to LSU. He loves LSU. Just because there's a head coaching change is not going to affect his decision. But those are the 4 major ones that there were people that were concerned what's going to happen to those kids going forward. The main decommitment this week that took place was Ohio State. Lost Danny Clark, 4-star pro-style quarterback. More than likely, he decommitted because of Ohio State's commitment to the zone read offense. So we're going to see where he ends up. He's a wonderful pro-style quarterback. He's definitely opening up his recruiting once again. One thing that could be beneficial to LSU is whoever their coach is or remains to come, whoever their coach is that they grab to come to be LSU's next head coach can bring some recruits with them, particularly if they went to the university for the coach. That's an advantage LSU would have, because you may be able to bring some kids over. Now, why does LSU have such a recruiting advantage in Louisiana? Well, look, we all know LSU is the flagship university of the state. There's no competition. There's no really major problem with them thinking that they can flip to a UL Monroe or Tulane or ULL. That's not going to happen. It's every kid in Louisiana, 4 or 5-star recruits that LSU goes after. I would want to say 90% end up coming to LSU just because they grew up. They grew up here. They grew up Tigers. They grew up in Tiger Stadium. They come to LSU. There's no competition for any of these recruits. LSU's got such an advantage over these schools. Their budgets aren't near what LSU's is in football. Their facilities aren't near what LSU's in football. I mean, sure, Tulane can push education. But that's about all they have. It's a money factor. It's that factor where LSU's kind of in the bright lights for kids in Louisiana where these other schools are not. They're the bridesmaid, if you will. So LSU's going to have a huge recruiting advantage over these in-state schools. Recruits that want to stay home, LSU's got them. The majority of them do. And it benefits the Tigers in the fact that this in Louisiana is such a hotbed. Great high school football players, great systems in high school, just all kinds of great programs. Lots of coaches try to dip into Louisiana. That's why Nick Saban was able to do so well here, is he built a fence around the state. He got in all the guys that he wanted from the state, and then he went to get the big names in the other states. So that started with Saban. Les Miles took hold of it, he maintained it, and really made it better. He was a heck of a recruiter. Which, goes into my point I was going to make about Les Miles and where the program was headed. Les Miles lost 17 of his last 56 games. And here's a stat for you. Is LSU over the last 4 years signed 19 to 20 4 and 5-star recruits. The only school in the SEC that had more 4 and 5 stars, and it was like 2 or 3 more, was Alabama. Okay? There's no reason whatsoever for LSU to have lost to some of the teams they lost to. You out-recruit these guys, so the talent pool is there, but they're not being developed. It's all coaching when your talent pool is level. And the fact that Alabama's winning 11, 12 games a year, that shows you where the edge is. It's not they have better talent. It's coaching. And I believe that was one of the things that this administration looked at when making the decision that they made. Is that we're getting all these 4 and 5-star recruits and have been for the last 4 to 5 years. But look at our results. 17 losses in 56 games. Okay? So that's over the last, 5 or 6 years. Okay. Now, granted, 5 of those losses were to Alabama, yes. But you still have, even with that, you still have 12 losses unaccounted for. Or I shouldn't say unaccounted for, but 12 losses that are not Alabama. To me, it's unacceptable because you've out-recruited these other schools. And when you've out-recruited these other schools and you have them out-talented, that means you're getting out-coached. When universities are developing players that aren't as talented as your current players, that's a problem. And that's what LSU sees it. And you have a lot of people say, oh, well, we would die to have Les Miles. We'll take him. We would love to have nine wins a year. But guess what, guys? LSU isn't Mississippi State. LSU isn't Ole Miss. LSU isn't Missouri. They're elite, and that's making a statement that they're elite. That is making a statement we are elite. We're going after these 11-win seasons. So that's why they did it. They did it poorly, yeah. They could have done it better. But the fact of the matter is 9 wins isn't enough to them. 9 wins isn't enough to the fans. There's expectations. There's nothing wrong with that. But there is something wrong when these players are not being developed in the proper manner they should be developed in. And that's a coaching situation. And you've got to make moves that way because it's kind of like